All right, we're back for part 4. The finishing up touches. What a ride, huh? What a ride. FSU, teachers doing drugs, CIA. All right, let's finish it off strong here. Hope I didn't lose you. Like and subscribe. This is crazy.
So let's look at this article from the AP. Before the CIA, there was the Pond. It operated under cover of multinational corporations, including American Express, Chase National Bank, and Phillips.
I rewound a little bit for everybody.
One of its top agents was a female American journalist, as a matter of fact. In defining the Pond's role, Grombach maintained that the covert network sought indirect intelligence from people holding regular jobs in both hostile countries and allied nations. It had a mission to collect important secret intelligence via many international companies, societies, religious organizations, and business and professional men who were willing to cooperate with the U.S., but wouldn't work with the OSS. In 1953, Grombach wrote that the idea behind his network was to use observers who will build long-term relationships and produce far more valuable information than spies who bought secrets. Information was to be rarely, if ever, bought, and there were to be no paid professional operators. As it later turned out, some of the personnel not only paid their own expenses, but actually advanced money for the organization's purposes. And you know what? That is exactly the same modus operandi of the Finders under Marion Petty. Tobe Terrell, one of the Finders' mainstays that was in the organization for a very long time, he wrote a book called The Game Caller, and he explains in that book that that's exactly how Marion Petty ran his operation. They were observers. They were sent out into the world to play games. They got regular jobs at regular companies, and they reported back. They gave their money to the group in order to all live commune style and be part of the Finders. In fact, that's what led to the Finders' downfall eventually, was that people started getting upset and they started suing for their money back because they didn't like the way the direction that the Finders were going. There's an article by Eddie Dean from 1996 in Washington City paper. And he actually goes to Culpeper and he tracks down everyone he can, and he eventually does talk to Marion Petty. And he says here that at the peak in the 80s, the Finders boasted nearly 36 people in their community. They played an elaborate game run by Petty, the Game Caller, traveling the globe as freelance journalists, computer consultants, and information gatherers. They pooled their finances and shared property. The group's roots stretch back to pre-World War II, Washington, D.C., in an open house that Petty ran when he was an Army sergeant. Sounds a lot like the Pond, except the names are different. In the article, they actually mention a guy called Walter Bedell Smith. And Walter Bedell Smith was integral in the setup of Project Rusty, which I've covered in another video, which was another clandestine intelligence gathering service made up of former Nazi intelligence officers and even some officers from the Soviet Union. This was Operation Rusty, Project Rusty, which did eventually get integrated into the CIA proper. It's a big, long story. Project Rusty is fascinating, but it's interesting to me that Bedell Smith comes up in this article about the Pond, where they say that he didn't trust them and he didn't like them at all. Also, in the article about the Pond, they say one of the outfit's most unusual informers was a French serial killer named Marcel Petiot. Marcel Petiot? Does that not remind you of Marion Petty?
Sure does.
Marion Petty of the Finders? The names are strikingly similar, and being that there's only one known photograph of Marion Petty out there.
Really?
His whole backstory could be made up. Who knows?
Cover.
Who knows? I'm not saying they're the same people. I'm just saying it's an interesting similarity. Finally, to wrap this part up, In this same article, the author comments on what the locals all thought of Marion Petty and the Finders. Remember I told you they had bought the cinema in the downtown and they would put cryptic messages onto the cinema marquee? Well, this author says, on a bright May day, I decided to take one last crack at finding Petty. Except for the cane on the porch, which could be just another prank, there's no clue he's anywhere near Culpeper. But at least there's a sign of life at the State Theater. The marquee says John 8:32. A local man quotes the cited passage from memory. It's from the Bible. And ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. Do you know what's important about that, says the man, a longtime resident who believes the Finders are part of an evil conspiracy? That's also engraved in the lobby of the headquarters of the CIA.
Wow.
He shows me a reference in Bob Woodward's Veil. It was indeed a favored motto of former CIA Chief William Colby, who had disappeared the week before near Chesapeake Bay. Much intrigue going on in Virginia. And there's so much more. And like I said, please do not think that I have presented to you all of the interesting factoids about any of this. I've just given you a 40,000-foot view. These stories are fascinating and deep and very involved. And there's so many connections I don't have time to get into. But go look up any one of these topics I brought up to you today, and you're going to see. You're going to see what I'm talking about. So to wrap up, we looked at that mysterious link between the McMartin Preschool and the Finders, which we got a tip off about because the FBI mysteriously included a couple of pages from the McMartin Preschool in their document dump about the Finders that they released in November this year. That link was a guy called Nauman Greenberg. And when you start looking at Nauman Greenberg, you find that he was sort of created as an expert out of the blue on child abuse, when really he had been involved with diabetes and lead poisoning before that. He got a grant from the National Institute of Mental Health and he was off to the races. And then, in that capacity, he kept seemingly covering up for mass situations of institutional child abuse, child pornography creation, and possibly ritual abuse, satanic ritual abuse.
SRA.
His organization Causes worked on this Reaching for the Rainbow project in 1985, in which many experts from this field got together and produced a great big long document for the government to use and reference. And one of the other experts cited in that book
Rainbow.
was Child Help, doctor from Child Help organization. Child Help, shortly after the Finders got busted, set up its own residential facility in, well, just outside of Culpeper, Virginia. Culpeper, Virginia is right where Marion.
Yeah, check out Culpeper, Virginia.
And it's also about 40 minutes drive away from where Sidney Gottlieb retired. Sidney Gottlieb, who was the poisoner in chief. MK Ultra, mind-breaking, through abuse, through drug abuse and other abuses. That's his project for the CIA. And Marion Petty links back to the CIA in various ways. Marion Petty, I showed you, was funded by Charles Marsh. Charles Marsh was a friend of Roald Dahl, I don't have his picture here, who links to William Stevenson, the super spy named Intrepid, who seemed to have his hands in everything, including the film industry, oddly. Now, William Stevenson helped to get William Donovan installed as the head of a new Central Intelligence Agency for the United States, and he was working on behalf of the British government while he did that.
Huh.
Are we living in a great big theme park, a demented theme park, where the cabal needs a staff of actors? And so they have tried to cultivate them through getting them into these strange communal lifestyle organizations that are really spy outfits. They're all working back and connected back to the CIA somehow. Are they using Sidney Gottlieb's methods of breaking children's minds through abuse? And is some of that being done through organizations that
They
are
just took it to
supposedly set up
Hollywood.
to help children? Are they being policed by experts who are specially put into positions to make sure that allegations of abuse that are true never see the light of day?
Yeah,
and
we
none
don't
of
like to go
perpetrators
to the
ever get
police
brought to
about this
justice?
stuff. I believe.
I don't know, but you see the mess I've just presented to you. It's sometimes unfathomable, but on the other hand, how is it that we haven't managed to solve some of these problems if all of these organizations are out there dedicated to it? It really boggles the mind. But I gotta stop talking now. Thank you for listening, everybody. I really hope you enjoyed it. I know it was a super long one, but I wanted to make good on my promise to do Finders Part 2. So there it was. If you liked it, please leave me a thumbs up, leave me a comment, subscribe if you...
Alright guys, I don't want to run this any longer than you want. I don't want to run this any longer than we're going to have to. So, wow. Yeah, craziness. I'm going to download this so you guys can get it tonight. And then I'm going to start fresh in the morning. If there's anything you guys want me to look into, let me know. Other than that, I love you and I'm praying for you guys always. Lack of knowledge. My people perish from lack of knowledge. Eyes to see, ears to hear. Amen.